What's happening? I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, with whom we lived for 27 years, with her coach. I was speechless and in shock. My name is Jay. I first saw my wife in the blood laboratory when I took tests as prescribed by the doctor. She was a laboratory assistant with kind, soft brown eyes and a sweet smile. I couldn't take my eyes off her. After thanking her and wishing her a good day, I left. Later that day, I walked into Starbucks and noticed she was standing in line in front of me. I tapped her on the shoulder to say hello. She turned around with a frown on her face, but when she recognized me from our morning visit to the lab, she gave me a smile that pierced my heart. I said hello and started talking to her. I invited her to sit and have coffee with me. She agreed, and we continued talking. Her name was Catherine, but she asked to be called Katie. She was easy to talk to, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. Her eyes sparkled, and her smile was mesmerizing. I was already starting to fall in love with her. We talked about our families and hobbies. She had a younger sister who was in her first year at university, and she visited her parents weekly. She had an excellent relationship with her family. Katie was lonely, without a boyfriend. Her passion was dancing, and she was into jazz dancing. She learned a lot from watching other dancers. We must have talked for about 2 hours without noticing how cold our coffee cups were and how hungry we were. We ordered a sandwich, which we shared, and finally, after another hour and a half, we decided to say goodbye. As a farewell, she gave me a piece of paper with her phone number and asked me to call her. I called her immediately before she could leave. When she answered, I said, "I don't know what the protocol is about how long to wait to ask you out, but are you free for dinner tomorrow night?" She started laughing. Her eyes sparkled, and she said, "Yes, we met every day for the next 5 days." Katie. At first, I thought he started talking to me just to get me into bed. But as we talked, I really began to feel sympathy for him. He wasn't a shallow guy looking for an easy one-night stand. He was cute, easy to talk to, and kind. We spent hours talking and even shared a sandwich. I understood that it was a chance meeting, but I didn't want to let him go, so I gave him my phone number, hoping that he would call. He called me almost immediately, within a minute. The number was unknown, and I answered the call. When I realized it was him, I laughed and returned to the table, and he asked me out on a date. We saw each other every evening. We went out to dinner, walked, went to the cinema, danced, and one day we ordered pizza. Katie's beautiful eyes pierced my heart, and her infectious smile became an integral part of my soul from the moment I met her. About a month passed before we kissed for the first time. As we got to know each other, Katie asked me to be patient as she was in 2 very bad relationships. One of her partners cheated on her, and she left him as soon as she found out. Last partner, he physically and sexually abused her, and she broke up with him. Because of this, she had issues with trust and intimacy. She approached these questions slowly and carefully. I told her I would be patient and willing to wait until she was ready. I told her about my last relationship. I was head over heels in love with one girl, and she cheated on me with my friend neighbor. Cheating was unacceptable to me. I broke up with her and never looked back. Katie also hated cheating and said she would never tolerate it. She didn't understand why people cheated. In her opinion, if you want to be with someone else, just break off the relationship with your current partner instead of cheating. We were looking forward to seeing each other again. We liked being together. Soon we both realized that things were serious with us. Katie was gorgeous, about 165 centimeters tall, with beautiful, wavy dark hair. Her passion for jazz dancing has given her a wonderful flat stomach. Her legs were toned and slender with a small gap between them. She had a beautiful figure with firm and proportionate breasts. Katie. I really fell in love with him and saw a future with him. He was about 178 centimeters tall, slender, gentle, and pleasant in appearance. It was easy to talk to him. I told him about my terrible past relationship, and he listened patiently. He held my hand when I told him about it. He didn't judge me or abandon me. He said he would be patient and not push me until I was ready. My parents were having a barbecue on Sunday, and I invited him. They welcomed him with open arms. My parents and my sister spent time talking to him and getting to know him. Everything was going so well that my father was smiling. I loved his silliness. Jay had dinner with us the first Christmas, and he carried mistletoe in his pocket and held it over us when we were alone. He even tried to do this to my mom and sister. My mom wasn't happy. I love the way he makes me laugh. Jay, I met her parents, Colin and Eva. They were wonderful people. They accepted me and made me feel like they had known me my whole life. I felt very comfortable with them. Her little sister, Susan, was also there. She studied at university to become a nurse. Susan and I got along well. Over time, we had many family gatherings, dinners, holidays, picnics, trips, and more. As the years went by, they never made me feel like an outsider. On the contrary, they loved me like a son. About 6 or 7 months after we met, when she felt comfortable, Katie and I made love for the first time. And then, for the first time, she said, "I love you." Katie, wow, just wow. I can't describe what our first time was like. I will never let him go. I told him I loved him, but he didn't love me back. Jay, a few days later, Katie asked me how I felt about her, and I told her that I loved her very much and also respected her a lot. She asked why I didn't say that the first time we made love, and I explained that I didn't want my words to come out of passion. I fell in love with her from the moment we first drank coffee together. We became inseparable. We spent so many wonderful moments together. A couple of weeks later, I invited her to move in with me and helped her pack her things. We always did everything together. She was like an extension of me. We spent almost all our time outside of work together, and of course, we made love constantly. Katie, we became inseparable. I thought about him every minute of every day and how lucky I was to have found him. I fell in love with him more and more every day. I loved being with Jay. I moved in with him, and he made me feel special every day. He was there for me when I was in a good mood, in a bad mood, or when I was in a mischievous mood. He was there when I was sick. He was with me through all my ups and downs and through my mood swings. He was there when I told him about my fears, insecurities, and secrets. He was there when I shared my quirks and quirks with him. He listened and hugged me. Jay made me feel amazing talking to him and being around him. He made me believe that I was worthy of love just the way I was. He believed in me. Katie moved in with me about 8 months later. About 6 months after she moved in, I contacted a friend who was a songwriter and singer and asked him to write a song about my love for her and how I felt. I told him all the important moments and events that I wanted to include in the song. I really liked the words he came up with and the fact that he could perform them. This will be my confession song. Katie and I discussed getting engaged, getting married, and having children several times. She was not keen on grandiose or ostentatious engagements. She loved everything simple and intimate. I invited her sister, parents, and herself to a nice restaurant. I made an agreement with a restaurant owner in advance. The songwriter and his wife were sitting at a table nearby, and after dinner I signaled to the singer. When he started singing, I asked Katie to dance. He sang our song while playing the guitar. It was a slow dance. I think some of the events described in the song seemed familiar to her, and she continued to look at me questioningly. The last line of the text contained her name, and she began to cry. At the end of the song, in front of her family, I proposed to her. I told her that from the first moment I met her, her name was etched in my heart, and that every beat of my heart was calling her name, how much I loved her, and that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. She said yes. Katie, Jay asked me to move in with him, and he helped me with the sublease of my apartment and the move. Interestingly, when we had household chores, he never said that he was helping me wash the dishes, wash the clothes, or clean the apartment. He always said that this was his home too. He also does the dirty dishes and carries the laundry, so we do those responsibilities together. Jay wanted to have a family dinner, so he organized dinner at one of our favorite restaurants and invited my sister and parents. This was not unusual as we all got together regularly. Just before dessert, Jay asked me to dance, and someone nearby started singing a song. This was unusual as this restaurant did not have a dance floor and Jay did not usually like to dance in public. While dancing, listening to the singer, I realized that everything in the song was familiar to me and that it was about deep love. I looked at him questioningly, and when my name was heard in the last verse, tears appeared in my eyes. He told me that this song was written for me. He proposed to me. And then I found out that he commissioned this song to be written especially for me. For me, what a special proposal. It was perfect. He commissioned the song for me. When he proposed to me, he said that every beat of his heart was calling my name, and I couldn't help the tears of joy flowing from my eyes. God gave me everything. Of course, I said yes. My parents and sister loved him. Jay, when we started planning our wedding, we decided we wanted a small wedding, nothing too fancy, for 30 people made up of close friends and family. When Katie started getting upset about some of the planning details or the wedding day itself, I told her not to sweat the small stuff. It doesn't matter if the color of the napkins doesn't match the color of the tablecloths, or if the bouquets of flowers on the tables don't match perfectly. I know it's a very important day, but it's just one day, and we have a whole life ahead of us that I'd rather pay the same attention to. In our vows, she promised to love me, be faithful to me, and support me throughout her life. I promised her that I would be there for her, that I would love her, that I would always be faithful to her, and that I would never make her cry. Our honeymoon was phenomenal. Not only did we enjoy the ocean, the sights and sounds of the resort, the excursions and intimate moments. Our wedding day was amazing, but our everyday family life was fabulous. I have never been as happy in my life as I was with her. As our marriage continued, we always found time for each other, for talking, biking, doing things together, listening to music, camping, canoeing, relaxing, going to the movies and theater, supporting each other, and of course, exercising love. Making love 5, 6 times a week was an important part of our bond, and we both felt so good. We both needed sex quite often. Sex was not the only way of physical contact. We made a rule that our kisses would not be short, but would last at least 30 seconds, even when we kissed goodbye in the morning. We also made a rule that when we hugged, the hug should last at least 30 seconds or more. This gave us the opportunity to be here and now for each other. Katie, I was really stressed about the details of our wedding, and he took me aside, hugged me, kissed me, and told me that the wedding was important, but our marriage would need the same attention. He calmed me down, hugged me, assuring me that everything would be okay and that I shouldn't get hung up on the details. Our wedding day was wonderful. The day I became his wife, I was very happy. When we started our marriage, we always put each other first. We really liked the 2 rules we came up with about kissing and hugging. I loved him so much. Jay, over time, I founded my business and included Katie as a partner with a 50% interest. There were times when I doubted the business would survive, but she was there, encouraging me. On many occasions, she has not hesitated to help me financially to keep the business afloat. Without this help, the business would not have survived. Katie loved to dance, so she joined a local jazz dance troupe. I supported her because it made her happy. She went to rehearsals 1 night a week and practiced at home the whole time. I attended almost all of her competitions and performances. I was always waiting for her when she left the dance floor after her number. I could never get enough of the sight of her, especially when she was in that cute tunic she wore for dancing. God, even after all these years, I still loved her so much. My love for her continued to grow day by day. After 20 or so years, we built a beautiful custom home. Katie and I discussed the issue of children many times and decided that we would not have them. It wasn't that we didn't love them, but we felt that there were too many children in the world who were suffering, and we should help these children if we could. Her parents were disappointed, but they understood us. After all, who doesn't want grandchildren? Katie's sister, Susan, was now married, and I think there was now some pressure put on her. Over the years, my business took off and demanded more of my time. When I realized that I was working long hours, I made a rule for myself that my workday ended at 5 p.m. on the days that Katie was home so that I could spend time with her, and I strictly adhered to this rule. I also hired more employees to help with business expansion. Katie wanted to compete in dance competitions professionally, which meant she needed a coach. To pay the additional cost of a coach, she opened a dance school for young students and quit her job in the laboratory. The school was an immediate success, with young and adult students registering, and Katie began teaching. She found a trainer named David who was highly qualified and experienced. Her practices and rehearsals usually took place in the evenings too, sometimes 3 times a week, but Katie and I still contacted several times a day by phone and spent time together almost every evening, as well as after her classes and rehearsals. Our sex life dropped to 3 to 4 times a week as she was often tired and her legs hurt after all that dancing. I tried to support her and be there for her. Katie and I were very close and our family life was good. Katie, our marriage was strong and we each relied on the other for a happy life together. I loved to dance. I had an incredible husband whom I loved more than anything in the world, and a completely satisfying sex life. His business grew and became very successful, and he encouraged me to follow my passion for dance. I wanted to take my dancing skills to the next level and compete professionally. I hired a highly recommended coach, David, who could help me achieve this goal. David knew his dance moves and what it took to compete in major competitions. He taught classes and training in the evenings a couple of times a week, since he taught other classes during the day and was very strict. To pay for his training and spend more time on my dancing, I quit my job and opened a dance studio where I offered classes. David transferred his other dance troupes to my studio. I loved what I did, taught, and learned. I really appreciate the support, Jay, in all of this. Katie has always been in good shape, but over the years dancing has made her body beautiful. She glowed when she smiled. We were happily married, or so I thought. I was working on an important 7-figure contract, and the client wanted to meet with me around noon on Saturday to discuss timelines and plans. Their team was not available on any other day or time. Since it was a lucrative contract, I called Kathy and told her what the client wanted. That weekend, she had a dance competition tryout in Minneapolis. I always accompanied her to these meetings. She was due to leave on Friday and return around midnight on Sunday. She said not to worry, she would go herself. She understood why the client was important, and it was okay if I missed her dance, and that we could watch a video of the dance when she got home. This will be the first time we spend the night apart. Katie, I became a much better dancer over the years, and David made sure I entered as many dance meets and competitions as possible to give me the opportunity to express myself. I have earned several awards and cups. He invited me to a competition in Minneapolis. I was supposed to leave on Friday and return late Sunday evening. No matter our busy lives, Jay always found time to accompany me to my dance meets and competitions. He is always there when I get up from the floor and greets me with hugs and kisses. This is so special to me. Jay was unable to make this trip to Minneapolis because some clients were only able to meet him that Saturday. I told him that his business is important too, so he needs to meet his clients on Saturday, and I understand that. Jay, I took her to the airport on Friday afternoon. Some other dancers and her coach took an earlier flight. I went home and started preparing for the meeting the next day. Then, on Saturday, the meeting went very well and ended much earlier than expected, around noon. I got an idea. Later that day, there was a 4:09 p.m. flight scheduled to arrive in Minneapolis shortly before 7 p.m. A taxi ride to the arena will take about half an hour. Her last dance was at 7:30, so if all went well, I could get to the dance studio in time to surprise her and watch her dance. I asked her sister Susan what she thought, and if she could come with me to record her reaction to my presence. She liked this plan and agreed with her husband that he would be away. I booked tickets for both of us. She said she could video call her parents, and they could also see Katie's reaction to our surprise, and then watch her dance. I was so happy to surprise her. We made all our plans and flew to Minneapolis. After the taxi ride, I bought a large bouquet of flowers and entered the studio. When we got to the gate, I gave Susan my phone so she could start recording a video and show it to her parents. At the dance studio, I turned the corner and froze. Not what I expected. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was, and Katie, she kissed him. I took a double take. Did she cheat? What's happening? I shook my head. Is she cheating on me? But why? She hated scammers. She always told me how happy she was to be married to me and how much she loved me. Is she cheating on me? Katie has never done anything to make me suspect that she was unhappy or seeing someone outside of our marriage. I think everyone knew that she was with her coach and how she treated me like a fool and an idiot. They all fell silent when they saw me. She turned her eyes towards me and saw me. Katie, why is it suddenly so quiet? Is this the Susan I see? My God, what is Jay doing here? Why is he here? Oh no. Shit. How am I going to explain this? Oh no. Katie came to me with open arms, but I threw the flowers, grabbed the phone from Susan, turned around, and hurried away. She tried to follow me, saying, Jay, wait, please. Let me explain, but I didn't want to hear anything. I had tears in my eyes. As I was leaving, I heard Susan ask, how could you do this? I got into a taxi, went straight to the airport, and flew home that evening. Katie, please let me explain. Don't leave. My God, what have I done? Oh no. Shit. He left. He looked so hurt and shocked. It all started innocently with David. Some dance moves involve complex movements. He was handsome, well-built, 10 years younger, and energetic. For the first 7 or 8 years, everything was innocent. Everything was just about dancing and competitions. But a few months ago, I noticed that he started flirting with me at every opportunity. He complimented me and told me how beautiful and graceful I was, how I was shining. I was flattered and enjoyed the attention. About 2 months ago, he hugged me and kissed me. At first, I felt uneasy. I wasn't interested in him in that way. I was a devoted wife and lived a phenomenal life. But I was pleased that the young man found me so attractive and desirable. I kissed him back. I felt so guilty. How could I do this? I decided that this would never happen again. I've had a wonderful life-caring husband whom I loved more than life itself. I didn't want to ruin my marriage. After the next training session, I told David that the kiss should never have happened, and I didn't want to jeopardize my wonderful life with my husband. David came to me, hugged me, and I became weak. He kissed me, and I kissed him back. We had sex. I cheated on my husband. Cheating is something that I myself hated. Why did I do this? But I let it continue. I couldn't understand why. I would shower in the studio, and then when I came home on those days, I would shower again to wash myself off and forget David. I felt guilty, but I liked his attention, even if the sex wasn't that good. I convinced myself that if Jay didn't find out, it wouldn't hurt him. Jay didn't have to find out. We only kissed and had sex after our evening workouts at my studio because that was the only time we could be together. Jay was always at meets and competitions on the weekends. A couple of times when David and I were together, one of the other members of our troupe would come in and realize what was going on, but they wouldn't say anything because I wasn't charging them any money to use the studio. Since Jay was unable to travel to the competition in Minneapolis, I was planning to spend the weekend nights with David. I spent the first night with him on Friday. We had a nice dinner and then went up to his room. Why do I keep doing this to David? What is my attachment to him? Why do I no longer feel guilty about cheating? I don't recognize who I am. So when the lobby suddenly became quiet that fateful day, I felt like something had happened. During my kiss with David, I saw Susan with her phone, recording a video. I was confused. Why is she here? And then I saw Jay. My heart sank. The only man I truly loved. The only man who was always by my side during my illnesses and ambitions. The only man who supported me in everything. The only man who calmed my fears and insecurities. The only man who understood my ups and downs. The only man who lifted me to new heights. This man saw me in the arms of another man. I betrayed him. I cheated on him. I deceived him. I felt so dirty. And he left the building, leaving the flowers that were intended for me. Susan was so angry with me, and I found out that my parents saw all this. What have I done? What have I gotten myself into? Tears began to flow. I didn't know what to do or how to fix it. What will I tell Jay? How do I explain this? I tried to call Jay many times, but he didn't answer. I sent him many messages, but he ignored them. What kind of porridge did I make? I needed to return home urgently. He looked so offended and in such great pain when he left. All this is because of me, because of the love of his life. I missed the remaining competitions. I tried to book an earlier flight home, but there were few available flights, and they were all full, so I kept my original ticket and stayed in my hotel room alone until it was time to leave for the airport. David tried to call me. He even knocked on my door, but I didn't answer anything. My parents called me that night and told me they raised me better than this. Mom said that what she saw was the worst thing she had seen in her life, and that she felt sick. How could I do this to Jay? But what shocked me the most was when my dad said that he had never been so disappointed in me. I started crying again. Jay, I didn't know if Katie finished her dance or how she did it. Susan called me not knowing what to do, and I told her to check into a hotel and return home as planned since there were no seats available on earlier flights and that I would talk to her later. Katie tried to call me several times, but I did not answer her calls. She sent me a lot of texts, but I didn't even open them. I didn't understand. She never said she was unhappy or dissatisfied. I thought I supported her and tried to never take her for granted. I thought that I loved her and that she was happy. I admired her, respected her, and trusted her. Oh, how wrong I was about trust. What did I do wrong? Was I not supportive enough? Didn't he satisfy her? Did he offend her? Did he insult you? Did you ignore it? Was she bored with me? What happened? I just couldn't think straight. Oh God, it hurts so much. Why is she doing this? I was confused. It felt like my whole life had just collapsed. My heart was broken. I was shocked, confused, hurt, and angry. Was our life together a sham? David was her coach for over 7 years. How long has she been cheating on me with him? Did she have others before him? Our life together was a lie. Looks like she replaced me with David. She always told me how much she loved me. She probably met with him in the evenings after rehearsals, all those evenings when she said that she was late because the dancers from the troupe were going to have coffee after rehearsals. Coffee, right? What a fool I was. My flight took off at 23:30. During the flight, I thought and reflected a lot about what I saw and what it meant. I couldn't get what she was doing with the coach out of my head. My imagination painted a variety of scenarios of how they could be together. I couldn't stay with her. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. There is no relationship without trust. I couldn't stay with a man who didn't respect me. When I got home, I packed my clothes and toiletries and left. It was about 8 a.m. I checked online to see if there were rooms available, and luckily, I found one right away. I paid a deposit and paid a month's rent and moved. When I left her a note. Katie, I was so excited to surprise you because my meeting went very well and ended early on Saturday, so I decided to come over to see you dance. I didn't expect to see what you do with a coach. I don't know how long this has been going on or how serious your affair is. Looks like you both are pretty serious. Your entire troupe knew about your betrayal, and you kissed him for real in front of everyone in the foyer, in full view of everyone, without even trying to keep it a secret or be private or discreet. You are with him, and your whole dance group probably had a good laugh at how cleverly you hide everything from me and at how I ran out of the studio like a fool. I feel betrayed. You lied to me and deceived me. I feel like a failure and a fool. I truly love you with all my heart and thought you felt the same about me. You told me how much you loved me and that I was your soulmate. Perhaps words are nothing. I'm sorry if I didn't love you enough or satisfy you in bed enough that you turned to another man. Looks like you replaced me. My heart is broken, and I don't know how I can get through this. I still can't believe that you could cheat on me, especially when I supported you and tried to be there for you at every stage of our lives, your career, dancing, and everything else. I believed every word you said about how you treated me. I think I really was a fool for believing every word you said. All these coffee gatherings after rehearsals, how easy it was for you to lie to me. Wow, and you were probably thrilled that I couldn't go to Minneapolis with you. Now I understand that I was your backup plan, your plan B, an afterthought. I wonder if you thought about him when we made love, or if you wished it was him and not me. Did you come to me after you were with him and give me what he left behind? All you had to do was tell me that you wanted to be with someone else, that you were no longer happy with me. I would, although reluctantly, let you go. When a marriage is no longer working, you need to move on. If your husband no longer satisfies you or makes you happy, you need to find someone else who will love and satisfy you, and you turn to him. Know that I truly want you to be happy, even if it's with another man. Since you are already in a relationship with him, I will not pursue you, as I believe that it is not worth pursuing a woman who is already with someone else. I will not interfere, intrude, or mess with you, and will leave you alone to live your life. I found a small room to rent and moved. I'm taking a few weeks off, so I won't be going to work for a while. I will also turn off my cell phone and will not use my laptop. I need time to think and plan my future. I spoke with Peter and asked him to consider my options for divorce. I gave him all our financial and investment documents, as well as videos. He will contact you. If you need to contact me, please contact me through Peter. I plan to contact him every 10 days or so. I ask you not to bring your new lover to our house for a sleepover until the legal issues are resolved. But if he has already spent time in our bed, then I can only be sorry. Peter will send you all the passwords and contact information you may need for your home. I wish you all the best and happiness. Jay. I left a note on the dining table. I looked around the house before leaving. So many good memories, or so I thought. I went to my new home and settled down there. My heart was so broken and I was so confused. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I just stayed in bed for days on end. Couldn't sleep. I had no appetite and didn't eat anything. A few days later, I bought a prepaid phone so I could contact the office and Peter. Katie. When I returned home, there was an oppressive silence in the house. He was nowhere to be found. I went to the shower to change and noticed that all of his clothes and belongings were gone. Tears began to flow again. My heart sank. Where is he? What have I done? Why did I hurt the only man I truly cared about? I found his letter on the dining table. Oh no, he thinks I replaced him. He thinks that my words about love were empty. He thinks I was unhappy and unsatisfied at home. He thinks I didn't appreciate our life together and how he was there every step of the way. He doesn't want anything to do with me. I don't know where he is, and he turned off the phone. I won't be able to contact him. Where is he? How could I cause the person I love so much pain? How can I get out of this situation? How can I fix everything? I can't reach him. I don't know where he went. I contacted all of his friends, but they had not heard anything about him. I asked them to tell him to call me if he gets in touch. I called my parents and told them how I cheated on my husband, and that Jay found out about it and left. Nobody knew where he was. Mom said that I didn't deserve him and that it was good that he left. I understood their anger and told her that I was more angry with myself than they could imagine. I begged them, if they heard anything about Jay, to tell him that it was important. No, I really needed to talk to him. Jay, it was the Thursday after the Sunday I left Minneapolis. I had an appointment with the doctor, and I called to cancel because I wasn't in the mood to go to the doctor. The doctor came online and said that it was possible to perform the operation this coming Monday, instead of waiting another 3 months as planned. I thought about it and decided to have surgery. He scheduled all pre-op appointments for the next day. I spoke with the head of HR, Frank, and told him I would take a few extra weeks to recover from the surgery. I sent a medical certificate to Frank. After all, if this is what I expect from all my employees, I must follow the same rules. I debated whether to tell Katie, but I told her I wouldn't interfere in her life anymore, so I decided not to tell her. After all, the surgery was only supposed to last about an hour, and I expected to be discharged that same day around 1 or 2 p.m. On Monday morning, I called a taxi and went to the hospital. I was prepared for the operation. When I came to my senses after the operation, the doctor said that there were complications and I would have to stay in the hospital for several days. He said something about problems with blood clotting. I had just come out of anesthesia, was lethargic, and did not fully understand what the complications were. By Wednesday afternoon, the nurse said everything looked good, and I would probably be discharged either later that day or the next morning, depending on the doctor's decision. I was discharged on Thursday morning. As I was wheeled out of the hospital in a wheelchair, I ran into Lydia, Katie's friend. We greeted each other and chatted a bit, after which I got into the taxi. Katie. Lydia called and said she saw Jay being taken out of the hospital. What? Hospital? What happened? Did he hurt himself? I didn't know what was happening, and I was very worried. I called the doctor's office, but they refused to give me any information, including how to contact him. I called his work again, but he hasn't returned yet. I asked his administrative assistant, Tracy, to tell Jay to call me immediately, but he never called. Peter sent me divorce papers. My eyes were so full of tears that I couldn't read them. Is my life with him over? Did I lose my husband over meaningless sex? I contacted my father's lawyer, and he agreed to represent me. If Jay wants a divorce, I won't resist. My lawyer and I discussed what I was entitled to under the law. He suggested demanding more and then agreeing on the required 50-50. I asked him to arrange a meeting with Peter and Jay in person, otherwise I wouldn't sign anything. I was broken and numb, so I just followed the advice of the lawyer, but in my heart I was looking forward to meeting Jay. When I returned to work, there were messages from Katie, but I ignored them. A couple of weeks after the surgery, I called Peter, and he said that Katie's lawyer wanted to meet with both of us in person to move forward with the divorce. I told him to organize everything. At the meeting, I was surprised that Katie was there, although I don't understand why I didn't expect it. She looked amazing. She was wearing the dress and jewelry that I bought for her. She still looked so sexy in that dress, but for the first time, the jewelry shone brighter than her eyes. I loved her. I could see that she was crying and looked sad. She stood up to hug me, but her lawyer reached out and stopped her. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Looking at her, I felt neither anger nor hatred. I saw how important she was to me, how much she gave me, and how full my life was with her. Tears welled up in my eyes. Peter discussed several issues and then said that Katie's lawyer had made some demands for a divorce settlement. He said Katie wanted her share of the house. I told her she could take the whole house and I would continue paying the mortgage. Katie was surprised, as was Peter. Peter said I could get her to take on half the mortgage payments. I explained some of the house debt went to the company to support me, and it wouldn't be fair to make her bear the full mortgage. I saw her confusion through her tears. She also wanted to take all the furniture, paintings, and other art we had. I agreed. She also wanted to take all the money from the account we saved together, as well as the gold bars from the safe deposit box. We both contributed money to this account. I agreed. Katie wanted to say something, but her lawyer stopped her. Peter asked if I was sure because we could split it in half. I said that if this is what she wants, then I'm sure. Katie didn't want me to touch her pension or her pension plan, even though it was twice as big as mine. She won't touch my pension plan. This was our retirement savings. We had hoped to enjoy retirement together, but life has cruel twists and turns. I didn't want to deprive her of her retirement savings, so I agreed. Peter said we could split it in half, but I said, no, I won't touch her retirement funds. Katie wanted to take our convertible and my watch collection. This surprised me. The watch collection contained rare pieces that I had collected during this time. I looked at her in bewilderment because I didn't think she was interested. But after a few moments, I agreed. Peter asked me to reconsider, but I said that if she wanted it, she could take it. There was a look of surprise on Katie's face because she knew that both of these subjects were part of my favorite hobbies. Katie wanted to give her share of the business to me. I said no. She deserves 50% because she supported me unconditionally and more than once helped me financially during the weakest times of the company. Without her, there would be no company. I can't take that away from her. Peter said we could create a tax system where she would get a smaller share, so that I would have a majority stake. I said no, let it be the full 50%. He again suggested that I take at least 51% of the company so that I would be its owner, and I said that it should remain that way. Peter asked what I wanted in this divorce. I replied that everything we talked about suits me, and I don't want anything else. After what I saw in Minneapolis, I can't stay with someone who doesn't value me, doesn't respect me. Katie continued to look at me, shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. She started to say something. Her lawyer tried to stop her, but she waved him off. We all paid attention to her. Katie said, "Lydia told me you were in the hospital. I hope it wasn't serious. Sorry that you're not telling me, but I understand. I wish I could be there for you. Jay, I'm so sorry for what I did. I should have stopped him and never started with him, but I was flattered that a young man found me attractive and desirable, and I didn't say no. I didn't really recognize myself when I was with him and felt disgusted with myself for cheating, but for some reason I didn't stop. I never meant to humiliate you, hurt you, or jeopardize our marriage. I never thought you were a fool. You have never left my heart. I value you very much, adore and respect you. The affair was never about love or sex because you are the best lover I have ever had." Ironically, sex with him was unsatisfactory, but I still kept coming back to him. I always took 2 showers, one in the studio and one at home. I never thought about him when you made love to me, but I always thought about you when I was with him, and we never met in our house. My life is not complete without you. I will never forget how you were always there for me, supporting me. I'm very sorry for what I did. I understand that I caused your pain. I'm so sorry. I cannot turn back time and stop myself, correct what I have done. I know I broke the vows I made to you and the promise I made to you. It hurts me. I lost you, but I live every day in the hope of your forgiveness, in the hope of fixing what I broke, in the hope of taking away your pain. Someday, I hope you will find it in your heart to forgive me. You're being too generous in this scam. I thought that you would fight for everything because I cheated on you and betrayed you. My lawyer told me to demand more than my fair share. You didn't have to agree to everything he demanded, but I know that you are not a vindictive person, but a kind and compassionate one. That's why you didn't yell at me or curse me when you found me in Minneapolis. You didn't say anything to David, didn't make a scene, and didn't follow him. You just turned around and left. I realized what I did to you. When I saw the pain in your eyes when you left, my heart sank for what I had done. I also want you to know that I quit playing jazz and competing. I broke up with David and terminated his lease at the studio. I will never make love to anyone else again because you are the man who was made for me, and I seriously screwed it up. Please know that I love you. I have loved you from the first day we met, and I will love you until the day I die. What I did was stupid and reckless, and I have never loved anyone else. I just want your forgiveness. Jay, when she finished, she was sobbing and tears were streaming from her eyes and her mascara was smudged. My eyes were also full of tears. I felt really bad for her. I wanted to hug and comfort her, but I couldn't get out of my head what I saw when she was with the trainer, and I didn't know how to trust her again. I told her, "You are a beautiful woman, smart, successful, and sexy. Every man on this planet would want you, and I understand that. I was so proud that you chose me to love. I never thought that you would choose anyone other than me. I was completely shocked by what I saw and couldn't believe my eyes. I don't know what I did or didn't do that made you turn to another man. Ever since this happened in Minneapolis, I've had the feeling that I'm not important, that I'm second in your heart. I was sincere in the note I left you. You gave yourself to him both physically and mentally, and I wondered if you were just playing a role with me. Trusting and doubting your words has become a big problem, and I don't know how to deal with it. I started seeing a counselor, but I'm not sure it's helping. Please know that I want you to be happy. You don't have to be celibate for me because I know how important sex is to you, and I don't want you to suffer. I want you to be happy and find new love. As for what you want in a divorce, this is only a small part of what you have given me over the past 12 years. You supported me in my business unconditionally. You have made me happier than I have ever been. You made my life richer and fuller. You shared your life with me. You shared my bed. You gave me your love. You gave me a purpose in life. You helped me become a better man. I became more compassionate, kind, generous, understanding, patient, considerate, joyful, and less arrogant. I love who I am becoming, and it's all thanks to you. I am indebted to you for this. That's why I don't dispute anything you asked. As for the operation, at the last moment a place became available for the one that was to take place in a few months, and I decided to go for it. I debated whether I should tell you about this, but I said I wouldn't bother you anymore and decided not to. I cherish the countless moments and memories of our life together and will do so for the rest of my days. I mean it when I say I want you to be happy. And then I fell silent. Katie, how can I be happy without you? You have never been and will never be second in my heart. No one compares to you in how important you are to me and how much I love you. And it would not be a burden for me to be in the hospital. I would love to take care of you, especially given the complications from the operation. You must have been so lonely all those days when you were alone in the hospital. I hope you are well again. Jay, she stood up and was about to hug me, but changed her mind and left the room with tears in her eyes. I didn't follow her. Peter made me sign some documents and I left. I had to start my life over again. How can I do this when Katie has been so intertwined with every aspect of my life for so long? A few weeks later, I returned to work. I spent 10-12 hours a day at work, 7 days a week. Every morning I went to the gym. My body has become stronger and leaner. A few women showed interest in me, but I wasn't ready to date. Besides, it wouldn't be fair to be with them when I still love someone else so much. My company was thriving, and from the profits I was able to afford a huge raise, a truck, and an apartment. I still spent long hours at work because personal time without Katie was too painful. I missed her at night. This is how my life went. Work all day, sleep, gym, and work again. I didn't go anywhere, didn't take a vacation. Katie, I went back to work at the blood bank. My routine included working, going to the studio after work and teaching dance to the kids, going home, having a snack and sleeping. And longing for Jay, David tried to contact me several times. I finally met him for coffee one last time and told him not to contact me again, and that if he showed up at my house or studio, I would get a restraining order and tell all the other studios what he did to his student. This will ruin his professional reputation. I blocked his number. I know it's not his fault. He saw easy prey and followed behind. What man wouldn't do that? I was the one who allowed it to start and continue. I'm the one who cheated and ruined my marriage and hurt the only man I'm still so in love with. It's all my fault. The irony is that the sex with David wasn't even good. Jay has not returned my calls, texts, emails, or my notes left at his work, and I have had no contact with him since we met with the lawyers. I decided to write him a letter. Dear Jay, I am so sorry that I entered into a relationship with David. I thought a lot about my affair and how it destroyed us. Please know that I have never been unhappy or dissatisfied with you or our marriage. David made me feel young and said nice things about how I looked in a tunic. He was clearly seducing me. I knew it, I was flattered by it, and it was nice. I think that's how I got caught. We started dating about 2 months before you found us. We met every couple of weeks after rehearsals. I completely regret what I did. It's all over with David. He is no longer my coach, and I stopped competing. I returned to work at the blood bank and left the studio for after-school programs for children. I know that I destroyed your trust and deeply hurt you with my affair. I'm very sorry about this. I didn't think about it because I thought if you didn't find out, there would be no harm. I could hide it. I was being selfish. Even though I slept with him several times, my heart and body have always belonged to you, and now they yearn for you. My dear, you were and remain more important to me than life itself. This affair is my fault, and I know I ruined everything. I take full responsibility and regret that this happened. I made a huge mistake, and my lies and cheating cost me my marriage and my soulmate. I love you so much. My feeling for you has become so deep that I have no words to describe it. I love you more now than on our wedding day. I realize how much I have depended on your love and support and how much I need you in my life. I hate what I did to you, and I wish I could go back so I wouldn't be tempted. I don't blame you for the divorce. Now there is nothing more desirable in my life than your forgiveness. Please know how much I love you and want the best for you. I miss my man who makes me laugh, my man who talks to me and is interested in me and my life, my man who allows me to grow and be myself, my man who takes care of me when I feel bad and I am in great pain every month, for my man who calms my fears, for my man who loves me unconditionally, for my man who completely satisfies me when he makes love to me, and for my man who makes my life a daily adventure. I miss my man whom I love so much. There is a huge emptiness in my life. If you ever think about me, please call. I'd really like to talk to you. You are a good person and a loving husband. I love you and no one else. Please take care of yourself. I miss you. Yours forever, Katie. And I sent him to his work. He never responded, and I haven't seen or spoken to him in quite some time. Jay, I started crying when I read her letter. Katie took full responsibility, as I expected. I felt empty inside and didn't respond. My administrative assistant, Tracy, came into my office and asked if she could share something personal with me. I told her several times about what happened between me and Katie. I looked at her and said that, of course, it is possible. Tracy said, about 5 years ago, I had an affair that lasted a couple of months, and my husband found out about it shortly after I ended it. His rage and pain were unlike anything I had ever seen. He left. Over the next year, I realized how much I still loved him. I was the cause of all his pain and suffering. I took full responsibility for the affair and explained that it was a mistake that would never be repeated. We went to family therapy. In the end, he forgave me. 6 months later, we moved back in together and started working on our marriage. I think we're still working on it. It took time, but he began to trust me again. I will never break that trust again. I know in what mood you come to work every day. I see it in your face. You don't have to go back to Katie, but if you don't forgive her, it will eat you up inside, and you'll never get rid of this pain and suffering. Just think about it. I hugged Tracy and thanked her. I didn't know that Tracy cheated and that she had so many worries afterwards. She never showed it at work. Her advice was sound, and she told me something I had never thought about. I had a lot to think about. Katie, now I'm a director at a blood bank, and the studio is very successful. Some of my students have become professional dancers. I direct them away from David. When I get home, I watch TV or read a book. I'm very lonely, especially without Jay, and it's hard for me to sleep through the night. God, what have I done? Why did I do this? I can't even look at another man. I miss Jay so much, but I respect his wishes to not communicate. Jay, it's been about 2 years since that day with the lawyers, and I haven't had any contact with Katie. I haven't even seen her anywhere. I thought about her every day and wanted to contact her, but what if she had already moved on? What if she found someone and is now happy? I wrote letters to her, but did not send them. One day I was having lunch at a street cafe and heard, "Jay, how are you?" I immediately recognized Katie's voice and raised my head. She was with her sister. They went to lunch together and randomly chose this restaurant. Susan touched my back and kissed my cheek, telling me she missed me. I think Katie wanted to do it too, but stopped. Seeing her, I felt my eyes begin to moisten again. I wiped my face. She asked if they could join me, and I said I'd be happy to do so. We talked about how Katie has mended her relationship with Susan, how her parents have forgiven her, and how she is still working on regaining the closeness she had with them before all this. God, she was so beautiful. For me, there was no one who could compare with her incomparable beauty. I couldn't take my eyes off her. I continued to look at her, and tears came to my eyes again. She reached out and wiped the tears from my eyes. Katie said that since the divorce she hasn't looked at anyone else. She said that she had returned to work at the blood bank and that she was still running a dance school for children in the evenings, and everything was going very well for her. I told her about my day and how the company keeps me busy. They ordered lunch, and I ordered soup and a piece of toast. Katie asked if that's all I eat, and I said I don't eat much. I lost the joy of food several years ago and only eat to sustain myself. She said, "You seem to have lost weight and started exercising. You look good." I thanked her and said she looked radiant as always. I realized that I still love her so much. After lunch, I paid for three. Susan left a little early for the meeting. When Katie was getting ready to leave, she gave me a piece of paper with a phone number, although it was the same as before. I immediately called her before she reached the exit of the cafe. She didn't recognize the number, but answered. I said, "I don't know what the rules are for an ex-husband who wants to ask his ex-wife out, but would you like to have dinner tomorrow night?" She immediately turned around, remembering how I asked her out on the first date, smiling from ear to ear, and said with enthusiasm, "Yes, yes, hell yes, yes." Katie, Jay invited me to dinner. He invited me on a date. I've been waiting for this forever. Of course I said yes. I need to get my nails done and hair. I need to go through my closet and choose a beautiful dress. He asked me out on a date. I haven't felt this happy for a long time. Jay, I made a reservation at the same restaurant where we had our first date. When she walked in, she looked dazzling. I couldn't take my eyes off her. God, I still loved her so much. When Katie came to the table, I stood up, and she kissed my cheek and stroked my other cheek. She smelled so nice. We ordered wine. She kept looking at me, and I kept looking at her throughout dinner. We couldn't talk. We just wanted to enjoy each other's company. Finally, I told her how beautiful she looked. She blushed. We both smiled. I took her hand and started stroking it. Her smile was so infectious, and her eyes pierced my heart again. I told her how lonely I was and how I missed her, and that my only solace was work. I apologized for never talking to her about business, even though she was still a 50% partner. I never consulted her about decisions made, running the company, or kept her apprised of the value of the company over time. The company was extremely successful. Katie, don't worry. I trust you completely and know that you will never deceive me. You make wise decisions that help the company, our customers, and the community. Have you met anyone, or do you have a girlfriend? Jay, I told her no, that she spoiled me and no one could compare to her. I haven't dated anyone since I've been in Minneapolis. Katie, it must have been difficult, especially at night. I know how important physical contact and sex are to you. Jay, I agreed. We both laughed. Katie said that she understood what I meant and that she felt the same way. I told her that I have a picture of her on my nightstand and I talk to her almost every night, which consoles me a little. In fact, I write her letters about once every couple of weeks. Katie, letters? I didn't receive anything. Jay, I didn't send them. I have them all. Katie, can I read them? Are they mine? Jay, I told her that yes, they were hers and that I would bring them next time. Katie, I noticed that. I said, next time. Jay, looking into her eyes, I said, yes, next time. I saw her eyes moisten. I continued, I discovered some things about myself while away from you that turned out to be rather ugly. My superficial male pride, my arrogance, my male chauvinism, my sense of entitlement took over, and I wallowed in self-pity because of what you did. I tried to hate you, but I couldn't. You tried to apologize and talk to me, but I didn't allow it. With my feelings and emotions being what they were, my ego took over, and I completely shut you out, the most important person in the world to me. I didn't even try to understand what made you want to have this affair or give you a chance to explain what happened. I didn't give you a chance to tell me how you felt or why you did it. You never blamed me for anything, even the fact that I left our marriage and got divorced. I know the affair wasn't my fault, but I also had a hand in destroying our marriage. It wasn't you who left everything behind. I did it. You accepted the blame for what you did and wanted to make things right. All you asked for was forgiveness. But I just ignored you, and I developed a cruel indifference to your pain. I regret not thinking rationally. I didn't stay with you as I promised in my wedding vows, and I'm truly sorry. Katie tried to say something, but I made it clear that I wanted to finish. I judged you too harshly for breaking the vows you made to me at our wedding, but I also broke the vows I made to you. I sincerely apologize for breaking my wedding vows. I promised to never make you cry and to support you. My pride got the better of me, and I didn't care, and as a result, I ended up being the reason for all those tears you had these last few years, and I wasn't there to support you. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Katie stood up and walked over to me. Katie, wiping the tears from my eyes, I said, "Oh, my dear, there is nothing to forgive. The problems in our relationship and marriage started because of me. You were generous in the way you treated me. I know I would have been much stricter with you if it had been you who cheated. You have nothing to apologize for. We've both shed enough tears. Let's work on earning trust and being friends again." Jay, I continued, I also want you to know, and you will understand this when you read my letters, that I believe that you are truly sorry for what you did and truly wanted to make things right. I forgave you a long time ago. Katie, what? Did I hear correctly? What? Is it true? Oh my God. Do you forgive me? I've been waiting all this time to hear this from you. Do you forgive me? Jay, she started crying and reached out to me again. Yes, I forgive you. I hugged her tightly. After a few moments, I said, Katie, I miss you, even after all this time. I still love you more than on our wedding day. The type of love I feel for you cannot be diminished or extinguished. My heart is still written with your name, and it still calls your name every time it beats, but it receives no answer. Will you answer my heart? Katie, oh yes, I will answer. I never stopped loving you. You are my life and my soul. I will never again make you doubt me or give you a reason to have second thoughts about me. I love you and will answer your heart with every beat of my heart. My heart beats only for you. I know I said we had shed enough tears, but I started crying again and smiling at the same time. I threw myself on Jay's neck. Jay, while she hugged me tightly, I hugged her too. I didn't want to let go. With tears in my eyes, I whispered in her ear several times for her to hold me tightly and not let go. She said she would never let go and hugged me even tighter. Then she looked at me, wiped my tears, and kissed me, and I kissed her back. Katie, oh my God, is this happening? Am I dreaming? My man, my husband, my friend, my support, my life, my soulmate, my lover is in my arms, and he is telling me not to let him go. I will never do this. He forgave me. Am I in heaven? Jay, we went on dates every day that week. I gave her all the letters I wrote to her. I wrote about how lonely I was, how much I missed her, how I felt, and how I was doing, how much I loved her and missed her. I wrote about my thoughts, my day, my business, and the emptiness I felt. I also wrote about how I forgave her. I asked her to read them when she was alone. Katie said she read and reread all the letters and cried over each one. One of the things we discussed was how Katie was going to forgive herself for what she did, since she was still upset about the cheating and how much she hurt me. Katie said she would need help because she still couldn't believe she had done something that destroyed our marriage and caused me so much suffering. This will be a long process, and we will work on it together. The following Friday, Katie invited me to her house for dinner. When I arrived, dinner was already ready. It's been a long time since I've eaten such delicious food. After we cleaned the kitchen, we went and sat on the sofa. I asked Katie to sit next to me. We made love. Katie, and I started getting to know each other again. We talked about everything, including the novel. Although we still have a long way to go, I began to trust her again, and she tried not to do anything that would undermine that trust. We became an inseparable couple again, appreciating each other like never before. A few weeks later, Katie invited her parents and sister to dinner. She hadn't told them about me yet, but they suspected she was seeing someone again. So she told them she wanted to introduce them to her boyfriend. When they were seated, I came out smiling, with a bottle of champagne and 3 bouquets of flowers, one for her mother, one for Susan, and one for Katie. Both Susan and her mother screamed with joy when they saw me, jumped up and hugged me. Susan said it was about time and kissed me on the cheek. Her mom looked so happy. Her father hugged me and said he was glad to see us together again. Her mom hugged me tightly again, kissed me on the cheek, and told me how much she missed me. On the ring attached to Katie's bouquet, I had previously arranged for the restaurant manager to play a song I had written for her years ago, and in front of her parents and sister, I asked her to dance to this song and proposed to her again. Katie, yes, hell yes. Oh God, yes. Definitely yes. I kissed him and hugged him tightly. Jay, we had a small ceremony in her parents' backyard. We went on a cruise for our honeymoon. It was great. We both began seeing marriage counselors to help us forgive ourselves and each other, heal, and begin the path to the intimacy we once had. We're also back to the 30-second rule for kissing and hugging. It took us over a year before things started to return to what we had before. It will take time, and we are working on it every day. We are making progress. We talk about how important we are to each other and hold each other in our arms constantly. And neither of us will ever do anything to ruin that. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to